Good morning. We have a interesting show. A lot of things have been happening throughout the world today. My name is Duke. We are joined with my buddy Dutch on the Duke and Dutch show. It is very warm this week. We have officially entered summer. It is 97 degrees today in Berks County, Pennsylvania. How about you, Dutch? How hot is it in your house with no AC?
It's all right. I got my fan on. I'm not sweating too bad yet, but it's still early yet. I gotta go out and cut my grass and do all that yard work. I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna lose at least 5 pounds, but that's good. I could use.
Hell of a day.
Could lose 5 pounds here. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Basically, the current state of the Democrat Party, from its propagandists to its politicians, why they're at a 20% approval rating. We have to cover the unfortunate shooting in Wayne, Michigan, that occurred over the weekend and luckily was stopped by somebody who is a fan of 2A and actually probably saved a lot of people's lives at that church. But obviously, the biggest thing everybody's talking about is the whole Operation Midnight, which was conducted, I believe, on Friday night into Saturday morning. And is one of the, I guess I would say one of the most successful, what do you want to call it? I guess one of the most successful plans ever delved up by America. The actual logistics of it are pretty impressive, even if I don't necessarily agree with doing it. I say you got to give it to the U.S. for just how it went down.
Definitely interesting tactics. I'm not 100% on the details, but from what I've heard, it's some interesting things happened, how they maneuvered it.
Now we're gonna get all into that, and let's get going.
This morning, amid the fallout over U.S. airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites, key questions remain, including the extent of the damage.
The strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Pentagon officials say.
All right, I just wanted to play that really quick so I could get something from Trump here. But this is going to go over pretty much how Operation Midnight went down and how it is actually, a modern marvel of, the U.S.'s military achievement. Or at least I believe so.
The United States just attacked 3 of Iran's key nuclear facilities, and here's exactly what went down. At around 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on June 21st, at least 3 B-2 bombers departed from the Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. These B-2 bombers were carrying a total of 6 bunker buster bombs, which only the United States has. Once these B-2 bombers made it across the Atlantic, they were refueled by fueling planes in Europe and other areas of the Middle East. Once these B-2 bombers...
They were refueled, just to clarify really quick here, because they refueling planes, they did not land. They did that in the air. So.
Which that's awesome in itself, yeah.
Yep.
Closer to Iranian airspace, other military fighter jets escorted these B-2 bombers into Iran. This was in case Iran noticed the B-2 bombers and sent military jets of their own to shoot down the B-2s. 3 nuclear bases were hit, but the B-2s were only targeting Iran's largest base, known as Fordow. Fordow is built under a mountain and stretches 80 meters underground. The B-2 bombers dropped the 6 bunker busters, which are capable of detonating roughly 70 meters underground.
A side note again, wasn't it that Netanyahu just said last week, and maybe this was a coordinated thing in the media, so Iran wouldn't be privy to America doing this, but I believe he said he didn't need the U.S.'s bunker bombs or anything like that. He didn't need the bunker busters.
Correct, and exactly what you just pointed out. I've been thinking for a while. I'm like, realistically, if we're talking about military operations stuff, they're communicating too much details about what they're planning on doing, and I always thought that. I'm like, well, you guys are kind of like giving out the game plan without giving out the game plan to the people that we're potentially, attacking with operations.
Clearly not, because
yeah, well, obviously they maneuvered it properly, which is, I guess, I don't know what the right word would be, encouraging of proper decision making. I don't know.
Stealth? I don't know.
Yeah. At least they're doing the military operations correctly.
Yeah.
So that they're successful. That's I guess,
that was one of Trump's big things against Hillary. She was, I was fighting ISIS for 30 years. And it's like, yeah, it's up on your website how you do it. So anybody can go to that website. It's public. So
wiped out the entire facility. As for the two other bases attacked, Isfahan and Natanz, the United States had a different strategy for these. The US fired 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles from submarines that were 400 miles from Iran's coast in the Arabian Sea and Gulf of Oman. The Tomahawk cruise missiles are different in that they can't penetrate as deep underground, but they likely destroyed these two nuclear facilities as well.
So, not getting into the right or the wrong of it, it seems like it was a very successful mission.
Which, yes, exactly. Just talking about from the actual successful aspect of the operation, kudos. Good job on running a successful operation.
And it definitely caught Iran off guard. I think we're going to get into a clip later on that's going to say that they did not even get any of their own aircrafts off the ground, so they were completely sidelined and surprised by this.
Yeah.
Or it could be the other way, and they're just not really technologically advanced enough to respond in time. So then that would also raise the questions of, well, do they have nukes or do they not have nukes? Or
Give me 1 brief second. I'll be right back.
all right, no problem, man. We're going to get into this clip anyway from General Dan Caine here. Going to give a detailed breakdown on the operation. We're probably not going to play all of it because it's kind of long. It is fascinating. It is a modern marvel, modern achievement of the U.S. military. Be able to do something like this, but I don't know if I agree with the logistics of it so much. But let's play the clip.
Orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States.
Oh, yeah, and also to that, shout out to these pilots who performed this mission flawlessly. Yeah. Shout out to them. I think they were in the air for like 36 hours or something to that effect, which is crazy to me.
Well, yeah, from what, Mississippi? Michigan?
Michigan. Yeah.
Which one was it? Michigan? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of a plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world.
I would agree with that, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we have the actual justification. I guess we can have the justification to do it, but I don't know if I really agree with the bombing of it, because I don't really believe that Iran has nuclear capability, so they say. And I actually pulled up that clip again from Benjamin Netanyahu saying, "Oh, well, in 6 months they're gonna have it. In 6 weeks they're gonna have it." It's like that was 30 years ago, man. I don't know.
At the very least, they're still at the basic stages of it. I highly doubt they had any type of actual.
But we got to
explosive ready.
Hey, Israel wanted on bombs, so we got to help out our greatest ally.
At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to be too cynical. I'm trying to, let me roll
and
back.
just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command area of responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Isfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordow and Natanz, The U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we're not really commenting on here. This is a little out of my depth here. I think I should let the general talk instead of
It's
bombers.
I mean, he obviously the details are definitely in his wheelhouse,
Yeah.
not ours. But what I'm taking out of it is the accurate precision of what was carried out is very impressive, truly impressive. Sometimes I think we forget how advanced our military is, and this is a prime example of truly how advanced compared to other countries. Like he stated, I don't see any other country really carrying out what we just carried out. On so many different levels, not just the actual bombers themselves, the refueling, the escorts, the decoys, the whole strategic aspect of it.
it's impressive for sure. But
Awesome.
also,
Yeah,
who else
quite impressive.
who else spends as much money on their military than we do? I don't think
Absolutely.
anybody.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us.
Wow.
And what does that could mean? Two things. We're either so advanced that we can, we just can get in there and get out and do that, or that I would say that maybe this is all a farce, and maybe Iran is not the big threat that we're making it out to be.
Well, one thing we got to remember too, it's not as of a pressing topic, obviously, especially in the grand scheme of things. But they did just have a 5 point whatever magnitude earthquake, which I'm sure has some type of impact on their infrastructure, military infrastructure specifically. Whether it truly had anything to play with it, speculation, but it did happen. It absolutely did happen. And not to mention Israel has been bombing them, striking them and whatnot. So put all that together, maybe we just picked the opportune time to carry out what we carried out.
Maybe. But I don't think the earthquake, well, it might have affected Iran possibly, but this operation would have been months in the making.
I know, I'm not saying we did it because of the earthquake, but I think, again, it definitely had some type of impact on Iran's infrastructure. So maybe it helped us out. It helped us out to limit the response.
Or Iran's military is just not very advanced, and maybe that would.
Or they never had a chance to begin with.
Yep.
Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority.
I agree with that, but I don't like the wordage around how we're defending. We just bombed you, but now we're defending ourselves.
Yeah, is it really defense if we're the ones who attack
No,
first?
it's not
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
It's not really defense.
That's
it's
like Israel and their pre-defensive measures. Like
Israel pre-defends. Now we're pre-defending to defend
Yeah.
Israel's pre-defense. And
Right,
obviously,
I mean,
I'm not.
we're generously labeling it in our benefit, but yeah.
This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the president clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the president and the secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners, and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible.
And yeah, shout out to all of them. Obviously, this was something that was executed to perfection. So
Pretty much, yeah.
It is
Sounds
their
like
skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this.
all right, there we go. So we got that done with. Now we're going to get into Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's been making the rounds on, Face of the Nation. I got another clip. He's on Fox right now. He's going to explain why it was absolutely necessary for us to go in there because of uranium enrichment and stuff like that. We suspect that Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons. And it's like, well, if that's the case too, I would just have to pose the question, why don't we go into North Korea when we know that they're trying to get nuclear weapons? I don't know. But let's, I'm going to speed this up because
if all you need is to be suspecting a country of making it, I mean, I think there's.
I wouldn't go on Netanyahu. I would hope, and maybe they're not releasing it, or maybe they're lying. I have no idea, but I don't want to go on Netanyahu's word alone because. As I'm going to play that, I'm going to play the clip again. So wait till we get to it, though. All right, let's hear what Secretary of State Marco Rubio has to say.
Being there, that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization.
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No, that is the key point in U.S. intelligence assessment. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that. It doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No. They're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but that's a question. That's a question of intent. And in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
That's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60% if you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon? Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles?
It's that preemptive defense we're talking about again. We don't, we don't know, but we think we know.
They're saying we don't need a definitive. Oh, we're making nuclear weapons in order for us to be justified to attack them.
And I don't know. I'm not on the national
statement. But
I'm not. I don't know that much about national defense, but it's like, to me, it's like I don't know how much I agree with Marco Rubio here. But let's hear him out.
You to develop. Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored. That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all this
and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for.
I don't know if they are the source of every, all the instability in the Middle East.
I was just about to say, I wouldn't say they're the source of all of it.
I would think a majority of the majority of the Middle East is involved in the Middle East being the Middle East.
For violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence
definitely more than
that
one source.
There was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon, and that's more than enough.
It's more than enough as long as we have the evidence that they could possibly do it. Which,
So again, it goes back to what we just said. It's like, so does that mean all, the list of all the other countries we should be attacking as well?
no,
Because
I don't
there's
know.
quite a few that fit this criteria that you're stating. It makes me worried that, like, okay, if you're going to use that as an excuse for them, are you going to use that as an excuse for other countries?
Well,
I don't know.
They probably will.
A secret program buried in the mountain where no one can see it and inspectors can only come when they say they can come. If that's what they want, then they're going to have big problems because this is a dangerous, violent, radical regime. Not the Iranian people. We have no problem. We didn't hit Iranian people last night. We hit nuclear facilities. And if what they want is some secret program that looks nothing like the civil nuclear programs around the world, it looks a lot like you're trying to build a bomb, they're going to continue to have problems, not just with us, but with many other countries in the world.
Problems like what? What do you mean?
Like the problems they're facing right now. Listen, why do we have bases in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in UAE? All of those bases are there to help protect those countries from Iran. Why did Hezbollah exist? Because of Iran. What does Hamas exist? Because of Iran. How did the Houthis exist? Because of Iran. Who built the IEDs that maimed and killed American soldiers?
No. That's not why they exist. They exist because we at one point gave a lot of money to those countries. I think Obama actually gave a lot of money over to Iran. I wish I had that up, but no, that's actually not the reason. But all right.
Soldiers in Iraq, Iran, they're behind every problem in this region. They are the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years. Imagine those people having a nuclear weapon, just one nuclear weapon, or even the capability to be on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. That's what the world was facing. That is unacceptable. President Trump did the world a favor last night, and now Iran should sort of wake up, the Iranian regime should wake up and say, okay, if we really want nuclear energy in our country, there's a way to do it. That offer's still there. We're prepared to talk to them tomorrow and start working on that. Steve Witkoff has traveled.
Are we in favor of nuclear energy again? I thought since Chernobyl, nobody does nuclear energy anymore. I mean, everyone seems so down on nuclear energy because there could be a meltdown of the facilities, right?
Not to mention other forms of energy have been developed since then, so we're not dependent on nuclear energy.
I think nuclear energy is actually still the best energy to use, though.
It probably is, but there's other sources that people are. Japan is doing something with underwater turbines to be. Apparently, the whole island of Japan, or at least some part of it, are being completely energized by this huge turbine underground, or at least that's the plan that they're trying to propose.
I don't know. The whole world
there's a bunch of different forms of energy that are being used.
The whole world is so down on nuclear energy ever since Reactor 4 went down in Chernobyl, and that was because they used the graphite tips in the rods as a cooling thing, and it worked as an accelerant because that was the USSR. I don't want to get into it. Let's not talk about the USSR.
Extensively around the world trying to reach that deal with them, but they play too many games. They play way too many games, and now they found out.
All right. So you say.
As they say, fuck around and find out, I guess.
They do say that, yeah, but I don't know if this is necessarily that. It doesn't sound like. Listen, Iran did not start bombing Israel. Israel started bombing Iran, and I know they're gonna say, well, listen, Iran can shoot missiles into Israel, and they do. I'm sure they do because Hezbollah's there, Hamas is in the region. Yeah, people do attack Israel all the time, and I feel bad for Israel, but they do have the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is like 99% effective, something to that effect. It's got to be a crazy place to live, but it's like I don't think this is going to change anything. I'm watching this stuff and I'm just like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I guess that's the big question.
But MSNBC, CNN, they're kind of just in awe of this mission, and I don't want to take away from this mission and how militarily successful it was. But yeah, let's see what I'm gonna play this. We gotta speed this up.
As we've discussed, it's a very impressive mission. Very impressive the success of the mission, how it was carried out, everyone included. But when we get to the root topic of should it have been done, that's where the gray area is. I don't know.
Preemptive defense.
Military in the world, and there's a huge difference between what's going on in Iran right now and what happened in Iraq over 20 years ago. So. I think having J.D. Vance out is great. I think having Marco Rubio out is great. I think the president bringing his whole national security team out and showing that, the entire government here was operating in lockstep with great precision, great resolve, and the execution of this was flawless. It ought to give the American people, a lot of confidence in the competence in our government right now as compared to what we had in previous administrations.
I agree with that. I think Scott Jennings is right about that.
The implications of this is that they do escalate. They do attack Americans abroad, and that we end up seeing a back and forth and war moving forward.
This is not an escalation. This is a de-escalation.
Well, Trump promised escalation.
This is not
Trump promised escalation.
Bunker busting bombs is not an escalation.
Because what she said, President Trump promised us peace. I ask you, can we have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon?
Well, we had a deal, and
we don't know if Iran does have a nuclear weapon, and even if they did, they probably don't have the I mean, we just done that for our own stealth bombers. They went over there. They couldn't get anything in the air. They couldn't launch any anti-cruise missiles or anything like that. So how advanced? This is the thing I really don't get. It's either they are.
I bet it was in development.
They are advanced or they're not advanced. But people want it both ways. It can't be both.
They want to use the thesis that they're advanced when it
I don't know. Maybe
it benefits the strategy, when it benefits what's going on.
Maybe it's just me because I'm very I voted for Trump. No new wars, and I was like, hey, that's great. I don't want any new wars. I don't want Americans to put boots on the ground anywhere that's not in America. I don't want American soldiers to die at all if it's avoidable. Obviously, why would you don't want to raise the death toll? So I don't know. This is just I normally agree with Scott, and I think he does make some good points here, but I don't know. I'm not sold on this, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You're litigating the past.
No, I'm not litigating the past.
Can we have peace if they have a nuclear weapon?
We had a deal. He's trying to get back into that deal. And he withdrew from that.
They were violating
and not only that, now he's trying to have another deal.
Bribery and appeasement does not work with terrorism.
Let me, hold on.
No, he's right about that, but I don't believe the entirety of Iran is a terrorist country, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm being ignorant, but anyway, we're going to go over here to Vice President J.D. Vance, and he's going to explain a little bit about this whole conflict. Then we're going to move on from it because we can't talk about this forever. But there's so much information coming out about it, and honestly, I kind of want to move on to something else because I feel like I'm just repeating the same talking points. I'm a little out of my depth about this whole thing, and
it's something that needs to be addressed and talked about, though, regardless. Yeah.
All right.
Substantially delayed by years. What does substantial
Well, again, Kristen, I'm not going to get into sensitive intelligence here, but I think that we have really pushed their program back by a very long time. I think that it's going to be many, many years before the Iranians are able to develop a nuclear weapon. But again, our goal is that they're never able to develop a nuclear weapons program, and that is a conversation that we're going to have with the Iranians and also with our allies in the region.
So Iran, again, has said that it would retaliate if the U.S. got involved. There are some 40,000 American troops in the Middle East. The Pentagon is on high alert. Is the U.S. bracing for Iran to target American troops in the region?
We're, of course, Kristen, doing everything that we can to keep our people safe. I think that we're prepared in the event that the Iranians do retaliate. But my message to the Iranians is it would be the stupidest thing in the world if they did. If you look at what happened last night, we had an incredibly targeted, precise, surgical strike on the nuclear facilities that are the target of the American operation. Our national interest is for Iran to not get a nuclear weapon. Our strikes last night facilitated that national objective. If the Iranians want to enlarge this by attacking American troops, I think that would be a catastrophic mistake. And as the president said last night,
I agree with them there. I think it should be that would be a catastrophic mistake because obviously you do not have the capabilities to possibly defend yourself from the U.S. However, that doesn't really get into the moral or ethical question of if this was a right thing to do or not. But I think that's what everyone's trying to avoid.
It definitely would not be in Iran's best interest to escalate the situation. But again, like you said,
I don't feel like Iran has escalated the situation, and I don't know.
No. If they retaliate, that would escalate it.
Would that be an escalation? Retaliation? For bombing
retaliation. We've already gone on the stance, just like I guess they have gone on the stance. If you bomb our civilians or our military personnel, which we didn't bomb their civilians, we targeted nuclear facilities. We already said what we would do if they target our military personnel.
And you don't think that there's anybody around nuclear facilities that would possibly be no civilian possibly?
Probably military.
No, I don't know. Well, what about?
I don't think civilians. No,
You don't.
How many civilians are by our nuclear facilities? I can't imagine too many.
I mean,
they'd be usually in order to work in a nuclear facility, you'd have some type of military clearance.
No, that's not necessarily true at all. You would just need a degree to be able to do so. Let me look at.
Well, no, unless it's a nuclear power plant, for civilian use. But that's clear. That's what they're stating according to our government. That's not what they were used for.
And there'd be nobody around there. Even if it's a military facility, they have families, children living on there. Listen, I'm not trying to be like a terrorist sympathizer here. I'm really not. But I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying.
You know,
well, and that's the thing, though. They weren't. We can't label everyone as terrorists that live in that country. So I completely understand what you're saying. So that's why we're having this debate right now.
I just know a little bit about Chernobyl, and it's like,
decision.
Chernobyl was downstream from Pruitt, and Pruitt was an entirely civilian population. So, I mean, obviously different circumstances, but I don't know.
The Iranians would be met with an overwhelming force beyond that. So this is a very delicate moment, Kristen. I don't want to pretend that it's not, but I think the Iranians, if they're smart, they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe we're not so good at this war thing. Let's give peace a chance. Let's drop our nuclear weapons program and start to make some smarter decisions. We're, of course, hoping that's exactly what the Iranians do.
And I have a number.
That's such a big ask after you bomb them, though. And it's like, really, you're just hoping you bomb them into submission.
To me, it's a similar situation with Israel and Hamas, but obviously theirs is a lot more. Talk about escalate. Theirs is escalate for years, decades. This has been going on, it's tick for tat. Like you attack us, we attack you. You attack us, we attack you. Oh, ceasefire. Well, you attacked us before, so we're going to attack you.
All our problems, man, they come from Israel being our greatest ally. Greatest ally.
So it's an interesting tactic or strategy to have to say that, oh, yeah, well, I think we dissuade them from being a military force now in the world, which I don't know if that's actually going to happen. It's like you said, it's a big ask.
Well, I said something stupid the other day. I wanted to correct myself, and I said, what does Israel do for America? And you know what? I was wrong on saying that. Israel actually does a lot for America. Okay. Israel makes sure that politicians, especially those affiliated with AIPAC, get a lot of money. But that's the extent of it. They don't do anything for us otherwise.
Sounds like a good benefit to me.
No, if you're Ted Cruz, yeah, I guess so.
More questions, so I want to keep moving. How concerned is the administration that Iran or Iranian proxies could carry out a terrorist attack inside the United States?
Well, unfortunately, Kristen, we know that a lot of people who we don't have full accounting of were let in over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. We know that some of those people were on terrorism watch lists. We feel very confident in our FBI and law enforcement that we're on top of this situation. But yeah, we're looking at this very closely. We're doing everything that we can to keep our people safe. And this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen and to keep Americans safe.
Mr. Vice President, can you rule out that getting involved in this conflict won't eventually lead to U.S. boots on the ground?
Well, the president's been very clear, Kristen. We have no interest in a protracted conflict. We have no interest in boots on the ground. The president has actually been one of the fiercest critics of 25 years of failed foreign policy in the Middle East, which is why he did what he did. A very precise, a very surgical strike tailored to an American national interest. And that national interest is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It would be a disaster for us and for our allies in the region. So I don't fear that this is going to become a protracted conflict, because I think that we...
You mean for Israel? Disaster for Israel is what you mean.
Have a president who knows what's in America's interest and is willing to do the things necessary to accomplish that interest.
As you know, after an Iranian missile struck a hospital in Israel this week, Israel's defense minister said the Ayatollah, quote, can no longer be allowed to exist. Does the United States support Israel killing Iran's leader?
Well, look, that's up to the Israelis, but our view has been very clear that we don't want a regime change. We do not want to...
That's not up... No, it's not, because if Israel gets involved in it, we're going to go bootlicking for him again.
I mean, last I checked, we definitely do have stances on changes of regimes in every territory. For him to say that, oh, it's up to Israel, I'm like, wait, it is? Now that's up to them?
Well, he just contradicted himself. He said, hey, we don't want that, but that's up to Israel. Well, what does that mean exactly? Do we want that or no?
Yeah.
Are we
just... You're saying you're going to let them make the decision, but we don't want it.
We're just beholden to Israel. Exactly. It doesn't matter. We don't want it, but if Israel does,
they can do whatever they want. Though.
They're our greatest ally.
Track this or build this out any more than it's already been built out. We want to end their nuclear program, and then we want to talk to the Iranians about a long-term settlement here. We believe very strongly that there are two pathways. There's a pathway where Iran continues to fund terrorism, continues to try to build a nuclear program, attacks American troops. That's the bad pathway for Iran, and it will be met with overwhelming force. There's another pathway on the table here. There's a pathway where Iran integrates itself into the international community, stops funding terrorism, and stops trying to pursue a nuclear weapon. This is a reset. This is an opportunity for the Iranians to take the smart path. We certainly hope that they will.
A couple more questions, and we're almost out of time. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said in March that, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Democratic Senator Mark Warner, the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee, said he was briefed on Monday that, quote, the intelligence hasn't changed. So why launch this strike now? Has the intelligence changed, Mr. Vice President?
Well, a couple things about that, Kristen. So what Tulsi said back in March is that Iran was producing highly enriched uranium that was only consistent with them wanting to build a nuclear weapon. There's, of course, an open question about whether they were weeks away, whether they were months away, but they were way too close to a nuclear weapon for the comfort of the President of the United States, which is why he took this action. Now, there's another...
I'm going to end that there. And I'm going to go on to this. It's a little small. Just to refresh, we've played this before.
Oh, what's
Iran
this?
could
Yeah,
produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the
2018.
preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away
2015.
from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal
Oh, wow.
of nuclear bombs.
They're very close.
we're
They're 6
going
months
10
away
years
from
now.
being about 90% of
We're
having
up
the
2012.
enriched uranium.
We're going
from
back.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Where's their
Iran will be
250
capable
bombs?
Of producing alone, without importing anything.
See, this is why I don't believe anything that's happening. I think we're doing this just basically for the interest of Israel. And again, this is no shade to
That's the only thing that's truly not sitting well with me is apparently our stance is, oh, they were too close. Like, were they?
No.
Were they?
No, we're too close to Israel. That's the problem. And Israel gives us way too much money, so these politicians come in here and they'll pretty much do whatever the hell they say because their AIPAC is funding them a ton of money. And that's why Ted Cruz said on Friday when we said that I came in to be the biggest defender of Israel. Why would you do that? Because I don't think Ted Cruz isn't Jewish or anything like that. He's not a Zionist, but he does it because he's going to get
from Israel.
He's going to get a ton of money, so he knows that. So it's like it's a pathway to fund your campaigns. And a lot of politicians in D.C. and outside of D.C. they're all funded by this AIPAC nonsense.
One thing I'll say that I do agree that was stated by the last gentleman before the video of Netanyahu was
J.D. Vance.
Yes, J.D. Vance. It would be nice if Iran stopped funding terrorist groups. But last I checked, a lot of countries fund terrorist groups. A lot of countries.
Well, I don't think Iran should be
More than
funding
just Iran.
terrorist groups, but it's like, where does all that money come from? And a lot of the money has been coming from, like I said, I wish I had the statistics in front of me, but Obama gave a lot of money to Iran. I'm sure some of that got trickled down and funded into these terrorist groups. You know, it's like
when you give billions of dollars to countries that are affiliated with certain groups, it creates problems. But like that's I don't want to say that's not their problem because they're not the ones that necessarily got the money given to them. But how are you going to root out? Are you just going to bomb a country once every 5-10 years to remind them, hey, so this is what's going to happen to you if you don't make the right decisions?
Yeah, I know.
Because we think you're starting to make the wrong decisions.
It sets a terrible precedence, exactly.
That's kind of the feeling I'm getting from this. Which, again, that's truly what doesn't sit well with me. Like I love the strike. I'm very happy that it's very successful. No casualties on our part whatsoever. It was carried out flawlessly.
Yeah, it's a military marvel, yeah, but it's like, it's
the why. I'm still not really on board with the why.
It sends a $300 million message to the world too, but it's like, what? Yeah. But what about the morality and the ethics of it? Are we doing this because we're concerned? Or are we doing it because Israel's concerned? And obviously, if you go back to this clip with Netanyahu, he's been concerned since at least 1995. So I don't put any stock in what Netanyahu says. But I say we leave it there. I kind of move on to a topic I think is a little more in my depths. I can criticize a little better. We're going to move on. But if you could, like, share, subscribe, comment on the video. What do you guys think? I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it there. So we're going to move on.
Let us know. What do you think morally? Are we morally justified for what we have carried out? Obviously, we've carried it out. It's done.
I guess it really does. It really is about how big of a threat you actually think Iran is and how close you think they are to nuclear capabilities. And if they get nuclear capabilities, do you think that they are going to target us or target our allies or something like that? Or do you think this is all smoke and mirrors and we're just doing Israel's bidding? That's what I would say. But we're going to move on from that. We want to talk about Mr. Governor. Could have been the vice president. We could have been listening to him talk about this stuff. Tim Walz. And I just want to play a little flashback here because this is going to get into the whole Vance Boltner thing. If you don't know, Vance Boltner, about a week ago, dressed up like a police officer and targeted specifically people in his state of Minnesota. He assassinated, I would use the word assassination, Democrat rep Melissa Hortman and her husband also targeted John Hoffman and his wife. They were wounded. I think they're going to be all right. I just want to bring back, because Tim Walz said, there's been a lot of things. Oh, this guy's a MAGA extremist. This guy was, now it's coming out. No, he wasn't a MAGA extremist. He was a doomsday prepper. But there's been an interesting development where they've actually come out and say that this guy has some association with Tim Walz. And I would just want to play this clip really quick to remind everybody of this dangerous rhetoric that the Democrats constantly push.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Trey Gowdy, and it's Sunday night in America. Some folks never figure out why they lost.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up.
Gestapo.
Off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye. Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
I don't think he knows what the Gestapo was.
To be clear, there's no way for us to know whether they were actually criminals or not.
Couple of things here, Tim. The Gestapo rounded up in...
Well, if you're rounding up illegals, and this is a stance we've had, if you're in the country illegally, you've already committed a crime by crossing the border illegally. And if you're a legal immigrant, which a lot of people are, and you've come here legally via, you have a green card, a visa, or you're seeking citizenship, or you've gone through the process of becoming a citizen, then you are here legally. It's not really that complicated, Mr. Walz.
Kill people as part of a genocide based on immutable traits rooted in fundamentally flawed beliefs in racial and ethnic supremacy. Most people, and by most I mean everyone except you and the far left, understand the difference between rounding up people who are simply born Jewish and rounding up the killer of Laken Riley, men who rape children, or gang members who burn people alive. Why are ICE agents arresting people, you ask, Tim? Well, they've done one of three things: cross the border without permission, which is a crime, overstayed a visa, which is a broken promise, or failed to show up for court, which is a broken commitment. You don't have the right to enter this country unlawfully.
You don't have a right to enter any country unlawfully. And if I went to France and I overstayed my visa, they would come find me and they would kick me out, and rightfully so. Or if I went to Germany.
That's one thing that I think really isn't talked about more. It's like, it's not just us. Like, this is the basic border rules for every country.
No, it's unique. It is unique to us and maybe some countries in Western Europe right now as well. Because we've allowed this broken immigration system to get so bad that we'll just accept anybody. When really,
if I'm not mistaken, Ireland is going through quite a hard time right now. They're protesting quite a bit with all the immigration problems that they're dealing with a similar situation.
Well, I'm going to get racist here for a second. Nobody minds. White people are 7 to 8% of the entire world, but only white countries, or primarily white countries, need diversity. It's just interesting how that happens. Why does America need diversity? South Africa doesn't need diversity. They're trying to get rid of their diversity right now. Right? Japan doesn't need diversity. Why does America need diversity so bad that we're going to let 20 million undocumented illegal people who we have no idea who they are, where they came from, what their past is? It wouldn't be a problem anywhere else. If I went to Japan, I overstayed my visa, they'd kick me out, rightfully so.
According to some, we need somebody to grow our crops, because apparently...
I'm just saying, I guess Japan doesn't have that problem. China doesn't have that problem. They don't need diversity that bad. Russia doesn't have that problem. Only, the UK, they have that problem. Ireland, they have that problem. United States, we have that problem.
Due process does not include kissing your loved ones goodbye, to borrow your words. You ask, why do agents wear a mask? Because folks on the left led an anti-police crusade. The leader of your party, the gentlewoman from New York, wants to abolish ICE and defund the police. Bathe in that hypocrisy, Tim. You want to give anonymity to criminals through sanctuary cities, but you want to out the cops. And by the way, mind your rhetoric. While you're worried about gang members kissing their loved ones goodbye, a Jewish couple won't ever kiss one another again, because they were both murdered by guess who? Someone chanting Free Palestine. So be careful, Tim, how you talk. American cops are not the Gestapo. Criminals are not victims. Your crazy rhetoric doesn't move people of sound mind, but it may motivate lunatics to violence.
And I think that's what we're seeing a lot across this country, is that this whole stance from the left is motivating people to commit violence. I mean, we saw it with the protests. We did that whole segment. I think it was it was 2 weeks ago, because this is our first Monday episode in 2 weeks. You know that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah, first in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But like you said, their message is constantly tied into very hostile, violent messages, which is sad because there's nothing wrong with having opposing messages or beliefs, opinions, but we can talk civilly and we can express them professionally with controlled emotion.
Well, this is why we're talking about.
You don't.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
You don't
continue.
need to get this far. You're fine.
Now, this is why we're talking about Vance Bolter here, and obviously last week he committed. I mean, he was carrying out an assassination attempt.
This is what happened.
Did carry out an assassination attempt. Now, obviously, they want to frame this guy as a MAGA extremist. Now he's got some connection to Tim Walz. Now he's a doomsday prepper. I have no idea. He could be. It's possible. I'm just saying.
Nothing shows that way. Nothing leads that way.
I guess he was kind of religious or something like that. That doesn't necessarily mean you're MAGA, but. Anyway, but this is all, by Tim's own rhetoric. And now this guy is saying, and also, this is suspicious too, because if they didn't have anything to hide, I think they'd be releasing his manifesto, because all these people have manifestos now, but they don't want to do that. And I'm going to apologize. This is a little bit of choppy audio, but I think it's worth playing.
I'm going to give it to Ellen, and then we're going to have one more question.
Can you talk a little bit more about the manifesto and what kind of motivation it might be?
They're asking if they can talk any more about the manifesto, if it's hard to hear. Sorry.
At this point in time, it would be premature. The question was, is the manifesto and the information that we have received, is their motivations? We are working diligently on that. There's certainly some indications within that, but there's not specifics enough. We have been, this is a very active and fluid investigation. Throughout the day, as you've been waiting and these teams have been out working out in the field, and they have been gathering more documents and information, so it would be premature for me at this point to really say exactly what the motivation might be from these writings, but we will be continuing to work on that and provide that information when we're.
And I think this raises a lot of suspicion with people too. There's a lot of people, their manifestos come out, or they do something like this, and their manifestos that can come out right away. But there's other people like, who was it, that trans person who committed that thing, I think it was in Tennessee, that took like a year for that to come out, because they were specifically targeting white children. That was their whole thing. They wanted to specifically go into a Christian school to target white children. Well, they can't release that because you got to protect this person, especially probably because they were trans too. But some manifestos that come out right away. I mean, look at that Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy who shot at Trump in Butler. We don't know anything about that guy. Still,
Very little
not
has
to
been
this day.
released.
Nothing's been released, which it does make people kind of concerned. So hey, this is from Benny Johnson. Shout out to him.
Definitely makes you feel like there's a hidden agenda when it comes to who they release information on, who they don't.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Assassin who disguised himself as a cop to shoot down Democrat politicians and their spouses. He killed 2 and seriously injured 2 others. Today, we're finding out he wrote a letter to the FBI claiming he was trained by the U.S. military, quote, off the books, and that Tim Walz asked him to kill Amy Klobuchar so he could take her Senate seat. Belter's facing state and federal murder charges. Assassin who disguised.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And of course,
It's a bold claim for sure.
well, obviously, who the hell knows if it's true or not? But
Yeah, I can only say it's a claim. I'm not. It's not a factual per se quite yet. There's no.
So I think Libs of TikTok actually has a good view on this. Very bizarre. Suspected assassin of Minnesota rep says Walz asked him to kill lawmakers as Democrat lobbyist who was arrested for violent threats against lawmakers in Minnesota promoted Walz's campaign. Walz slipped that he's friends with shooters. We all know that clip. What is going on with Tim? So I don't know. And maybe if this guy is really MAGA and he is really for Trump, maybe he would frame it this way. Or maybe he really does think. I don't think Tim Walz, personally, I don't think he contracted him or anything like that, because I think that's a little too conspiratorial even for me. But
Not to mention that'd be pretty unintelligent of him to do something like that. Because eventually the guy would be caught, and like you'd basically be setting yourself up.
Minnesota shooting suspect claimed Tim Walz wanted Amy Klobuchar killed. A letter was found near Minnesota shooting suspect Vance Luther Bolter's home, and he claimed Tim Walz instructed him to assassinate Amy Klobuchar. Here, can you take over real fast, Duke? Can you read that? I'll be right back.
Vance Luther Bolter, the suspect accused of fatally shooting former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hartman and her husband Mark Hartman, allegedly wrote a letter to the FBI claiming, just like we talked about, that the governor, Tim Walz, instructed him to unalive U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar so Walz could run for her seat. It's a bold statement, but again, I don't know how much credit we can put into it. The Minnesota Star Tribune reported, citing two individuals familiar with the letter's contents. The letter, described as rambling and conspiratorial, was reportedly found near Bolter's home in Green Isle, Minnesota. In it, Bolter, 57, also claimed he had been trained off the books, quote unquote, by the U.S. military, and asserted that Governor Walz, who has not declared any Senate ambitions, had directed him to target Klobuchar and others. A spokesperson for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, Daniel Bogert Popin, declined to comment on the letter's contents, citing the ongoing investigation. Yeah, at this point, I'm not sure how to take it. Obviously, we're going to listen to what is being reported to us, but with this type of thing, you have to take it with a grain of salt, as they say, because it could, as my partner Dutch stated, it could be somebody with MAGA influence trying to make the scene look a certain way, or this could be exactly what really did happen. Who knows if we'll actually find out or not.
I didn't want to bring that up, and I'm not sure exactly how far you got to this article. I read through this before, but I just think it's like it seems like the further we go on, there's just more of
I got all the way to the bottom.
There's more of a radicalization of people in this country, and I think most of it is coming from the left. Not that they can't be, right-wing extremists, and I'm sure there are. We've seen that in the past, but let's see here. All right, let's keep going. He told Minnesota Star Tribune, due to the seriousness of the allegations it contains, we will state only that we have seen no evidence that the allegations regarding Governor Tim Walz are based in fact, which they're probably not.
That's the best way to handle it. Yeah, you can't take him for his word at this point.
Well, unless there's something concrete linking them together.
Word.
But even if there was something concrete linking them together, I don't know, who knows? So Boulder faces the following charges: 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Melissa and Mark Hartman, 2 federal firearms charges related to the shootings, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder in the Hennepin County District Court. And that's pretty much it for that. But I think it really is, and this isn't exclusive to the Democrats, but I think it is more kind of on them than Republicans. The rhetoric kind of has to be turned down in the country.
I think it would be in the country's best benefit for them to really choose their words better, especially when you're talking to the public. Because you never know which member of the public is listening.
Well, but they can't do that.
And how they're going to take it.
What do the Democrats have other than fear-mongering about Trump? They don't have anything. And that's really kind of the point we've come to. They have nothing other than fear-mongering about Trump. Trump is Hitler. Trump bad. Trump's a Nazi.
Sadly, it happens all too often, and we can speculate that it's because of that, but if it actually is, this is a horrible prime example as to why it really needs to be better.
I've seen a lot of Democrats, attack cars and rip stuff down, and I'm sure Republicans do it too. Maybe it's just not on my feed because that's how it's curated, but it seems like the left is a lot more unhinged, and it's like Tim Walz has nothing other than his rhetoric. Tim Walz, as I said, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, he's probably the first white, straight male DEI hire of all time, just because the guy is not very intelligent, or he doesn't seem very intelligent to me. And also, he's a pathological liar. But that's enough with Tim Walz. Move on to our next topic, which is also going to fall a little bit into why the Democrats keep losing ground. At least with what Trump does. I don't always agree with it, and I I don't think Trump's infallible, and I don't think it's anti-MAGA or anything like that to criticize Trump. I really don't, because I think if you can't criticize something that somebody does, then that's a cult-like mentality. You can't just...
As we stated numerous times on this show already, every government should be criticized and scrutinized.
Yeah, you
Doesn't
can't
matter
just...
what the figurehead is.
You can't just dick ride for people. Oh, wait, no, I forgot about this segment. This doesn't really pertain to it, but this is... I'm going to let Jesse Waters explain this, because this is actually really interesting. It doesn't pertain to this, but this kind of speaks to the corruption of the Democrats and why I think they're losing ground.
Before you play this, just make sure to like and share and let us know what you think, what you think his motives were.
No idea. It could just be a crazy guy. They say he was a prepper, or he could have been really MAGA and he wanted to take out the Dems, and that Melissa Hortman voted against the Democrats. That could just be coincidental. Who knows? But this is a whole other scandal now that Tim Walz is going to be involved in, courtesy brought to us by Jesse Waters. Let's see what Jesse's got to say.
For less than a week, and we've already found out he let rioters burn down cities, lied about his military service, crushed small businesses, and turned Minnesota into a child sex change sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not it. Tonight, we're dropping another Walz bombshell. As governor, Walz let a gang of politically connected Somali fraudsters steal $250 million of your money. It was the single biggest COVID scam in American history. During the pandemic, the government was just giving out money left and right. A nonprofit in Minnesota, Feeding Our Future, got $250 million to send food to needy kids. Sounds good, right? Here's the problem. Almost none of it was used for food. The Somali scammers blew our cash on real estate, cars, extravagant get trips. We have wire transfers that show thousands going to car dealerships. $160,000 went to some company in China. And $500,000 was sent to Kenya to buy an apartment. A $500,000 apartment in Kenya is probably a palace. But our tax dollars weren't just used on goodies. The politicians got a taste too. Ilhan Omar got thousands of dollars in donations from some of the scammers. These guys weren't criminal masterminds. It was sloppy. When they cooked the books, they made up names of their fake clients. They came up with these names. Are you ready? Unique Problem. Friday Donations. How'd nobody get that? Well, early on, Walz's administration thought it looked a little suspicious, so they froze the funds. Then the Somalis sued and called Walz racist, so he kept letting them steal. They didn't bother to crack into the bank accounts or issue subpoenas. Walz just put his hands in the air and said, I'm not racist. Take whatever you want. Minnesota has a huge Somali population.
That is kind of the problem, too. That's like a defense now. It's like, oh, you're a racist. And people will be like, oh, no, I don't want to be associated with that. And
I'm sure it happens.
I'm more on the side of I don't think these words really have any meaning anymore. I really don't, because it's like, anytime you disagree with anybody, oh, you're a Nazi. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
You can't get.
Oh, you're fascist. Oh, you're a communist. Oh, you're a socialist. Oh, you're this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and it'd be all right if you were a socialist communist, because they like socialist communism. So
that's true.
Walz even gave one of the fraudsters the Minnesota Outstanding Refugee Award. 3 years later, she was indicted.
Wow.
No thanks to Walz, the feds came in after he ignored the problem for years. During the trial, the Somalis tracked down a juror and dropped off a Hallmark bag on their doorstep.
And I'm going to say this really quick. We're going to move on, but it had to be hard for Kamala. She had to pick somebody who was dumber than her, and I really think she did. I think Tim Walz is probably a lot dumber than Kamala Harris. But it had to be difficult. I mean, you got to be going through people like, who is dumber than me in the Democrat Party? And then this bumbling idiot walks up.
Let's be real. She had to find somebody who was going to sign up for that circus of a show that she had signed up for. After Biden, connecting to Biden, knowing what's going on. And at this point, we know that everyone in the Democratic Party basically knew what was happening with the cognitive state of Biden. So who do you think really wanted to attach their name to that? Because no matter who it was, they were going to get attached to the Biden fiasco. That's another probably big hurdle that she was I'm sure there were some candidates. Maybe Tim Walz was not her first choice.
No, definitely not.
But Tim Walz is probably the choice
that would make her look the best. Yeah.
Yeah, make her look the best and was willing to do it.
Oh, I wish I had this.
Be honest.
Apparently, there was a thing about Mark Cuban. She asked Mark Cuban to run as her running mate, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to do that."
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, honestly, you'd have to be, your intelligence would have to kind of be in question to attach your name to that bandwagon.
And I don't know about
I wouldn't. I don't care how much money you're throwing at me or what you're promised to me. Like I would not want to be associated with that campaign.
And obviously,
No way.
they say that whole thing with Josh Shapiro, and they asked Josh Shapiro, and they said, they couldn't do that because he was Jewish, and the whole Israel-Palestine thing was going off at the time, and obviously it still is. But I don't know if that's even it. Maybe Josh Shapiro was just like, nah, I don't want to attach myself to this. It's political suicide.
As a political, I was about to say it's political suicide for anybody that really cared about making a career in politics.
We've already made careers in politics. It's like, why are you going to attach yourself to this sinking ship?
Yeah.
Filled with 120 G's and a little note saying there's more to come if she acquits. This all happened under Walz's nose. He had every chance to stop it and failed. Just like he failed to protect the city during the riots, and just like he failed his unit when he retired before deployment. This is the guy Kamala Harris chose as her number 2.
Who else was she going to pick? In all honesty, who else was she going to pick?
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to move on from the absolute corruption of the Democrats to the incompetence of the Democrats. And one of my favorite people here in the world is Whoopi Goldberg. I love hearing from Whoopi. I love hearing from The View. I know a lot of people are probably like, what are you talking about, man? It's like,
Before we play this video,
I love The View.
I just want to state, my buddy Dutch, as he's proudly said already, he voted for Donald Trump. I personally am not a Republican or a Democrat. I want to be very clear with this. I don't necessarily 100% view everything the same way that Dutch does. That's why I think we make a good dynamic. We do have opposing views sometimes, but I want to be clear. From my objective view from the outside, I'm sorry. The political party of the Democrats make too much content that we have to report on when it comes to just negligence, when it comes to corruption, when it comes to just incompetence.
Well,
it's just everywhere. It's just everywhere.
We were just critical of Trump too. So, and I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I did not, like I said, I voted for Trump, but a big part of his thing was no new wars. I don't want any new wars. I don't want boots in the ground for any Americans.
I feel like a lot of our stories are, necessarily negative towards Democrats. But again, we're just reporting what's there. It's not like we're making these stories up. We're literally just giving you the facts that we find. We're giving you the topics that we find. And it's just sad that most of the topics are Democrats are just... there's a reason why they're polling at whatever they're polling at right now.
Like 19%.
Yeah, this is just awful.
Well, I don't think the View...
I would love to have a party that I could believe in with the Democrats, but just it's not there. It's just not there right now. I tell you right now.
No.
I don't know. I don't know how I could ever be a Democrat and believe in this current Democratic Party.
Well, I am a registered Democrat. You didn't know.
Ooh,
so
well, there you go.
Yeah. So I know my vote.
You are one example of many that I've heard and seen numerous reports and research on of switching to the other side, quote unquote.
Well, I haven't actually I haven't switched to the other side because in my conspiracy theory brain, I know if I vote Democrat, my vote will always be counted. So that's literally how I think about it. If I switch Republican, maybe it won't be. But if
that's
how I think. So I'm like,
it's understandable. I think it's understandable that you would think that way. I'll leave it at that.
Well, no, I'm gonna. If you want to know why, it's like when we were in high school, actually, senior year, they registered everybody to vote who could, and obviously, I think 90% of the people, excuse me, in my class registered as Democrats because you're young and you're idealistic and stuff like that. And I think then you get into the real world and you understand a little more things, and it's like, you can't be a bleeding heart liberal. It's like I think it was Churchill said, if you're a young Republican, you have no heart, and if you're an old Democrat, you have no brain. So.
It's a very understandable comment.
But yeah, let's see my favorite person, or one of my favorite people in the world, Whoopi Goldberg. They're talking about taking The View off the air, or some people are saying that it's not helping them.
One can only hope.
I would hope not. I love The View, man. The View is great.
Yeah.
I get so much content from The View.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember too, the Iran.
Hold on one second. They're on our show at least once a week.
I know. I love these women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone wants to call me a misogynist, I love all these women right here. All
I believe our last time that we had them on was the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
With Schwarzenegger, yeah. Yeah, that was just last week. I think that was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
I'm sorry, but where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing
used
compared
to
to the
just
United
keep
States.
hanging black people. So
It is not even the same. I couldn't step foot wearing this outfit.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Killed for
I'm
sorry.
Well, they wear like
listen,
no, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you, as
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes, it is up to them. And that's why
No, it's not up to them. You're completely wrong. Iranian women do not have free expression. I mean, that is, part of Sharia law, all that type of stuff. But Alyssa Farah Griffin, in a rare moment for Alyssa Farah Griffin, is right. Although she's going up against Whoopi Goldberg, so
I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
not if you're black. All right, I don't have this pulled up, but I'm going to pull it up really fast. Whoopi Goldberg.
Not if you're black.
Net worth. Now, Whoopi Goldberg is very oppressed here. Let's just click on this. What is Whoopi Goldberg's salary on The View? Whoopi Goldberg earns $8 million every year. Racism. That's racism. She's a black woman on TV. She's only making $8 million a year for talking for an hour, 4 days a week.
She's oppressed.
Oh my God!
They're taking advantage of her.
Is there a GoFundMe?
Can we cancel The View?
No.
Yeah. Like, is there a petition that I need to sign?
Is there a GoFundMe for her? Hold on, I'm just gonna look this up real fast. No, I don't want to sign in. Search. Is there one for Whoopi Goldberg? Whoopi. I wanna donate real fast. Can I do that? Whoopi Goldberg. I just support Whoopi Goldberg. Keep the lights on. There we go. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. See, somebody's got my sense of humor. They're doing it. Keep the lights on for Whoopi Goldberg. Nobody has donated yet.
I believe somebody will. Somebody needs to help her.
Yeah, and you know why nobody's donated? Racism. It's racism.
It's racist.
Yeah. Racist.
If she was a white person that needed help,
they would donate. They would 100% be donating to her. All you racist, I'm going to look right in the camera when I say this. All you racist bigots out there, go support Whoopi Goldberg. She cannot survive on $8 million a year.
She needs your help.
What's wrong with you? She's a black woman in America. She's being oppressed. All right.
She needs your help.
So people are not too happy with The View, and this is coming from Bill Maher, who is a Trump deranged. I used to like Bill Maher, and he still has some good takes, but he's kind of like a lefty lunatic. He got really Trump deranged. I think maybe he comes out of it, maybe he doesn't, but
he's an interesting person, and that, like you just said right at the end, it seems like one episode or one segment he has that syndrome, and then the next one he's level-headed, and it's like, well, okay, hold on.
He has some.
I guess it depends what we're talking about.
He's got some okay takes,
or who we're talking about, or what, I don't know.
What did you think of Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran? I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that too.
I love how he just chuckled. He laughed. Right? I love that chuckle. You can play. I'm sorry.
Well, no, the black gentleman he's talking to, I don't know exactly who he is, but he's some type of constituent or something like that who's been elected.
I thought he was a politician, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's a politician constituent in some type of, he was elected in some sort of democratic process, so you would hope, and he happens to be black. So I guess his district isn't racist, but the rest of America is.
Crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be, we got to do something about The View.
Yep. Actually, I don't think that at all. I really don't. I don't know what he's talking about. I think The View is perfect the way it is. I think they should let them a little more off the leash. But that's just me.
Any Republican, that should be their stance for sure. But a Democrat, yeah, get rid of the View. If you have any hopes for your party to ever climb out of the hole that they've dug themselves in, cancel the View. Please cancel the View. And that's not me speaking as a Democrat. That's me speaking if I was a Democrat.
The View,
That's how you should be thinking.
I think you're. I mean, I'm a registered Democrat, and just so you know, I think the View speaks for the unwashed masses. They're the voices of the voiceless. Let them do what they're gonna do. What are you?
She really understands the problems of America.
Well, you don't. Well, what? You don't like women? Are you a misogynist? What are you saying about the View?
No.
What are you saying?
Oh, I just don't like the shirt she's wearing. That's personally.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's huge in Iran, though.
My district in the great state of Texas is actually a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. As I said, I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My great-great-grandfather was born on a Rosedown plantation. I am literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's the progress, because
a lot
of white people had to vote for me. A lot.
So wait,
I don't even ever want to hear Whoopi Goldberg's conversation about how it's worse to be black in America right now. That's a bit far. And my father, who's 75 years old, he was a man that was in the French quarters that had to go.
I think it's Thomas Sowell who says racism isn't dead in America, but it is on life support. And it's kept around by people like Whoopi Goldberg in the entertainment industry and politicians who want to grift off of it. There's a huge race grift in this country. And if you can keep saying that there's inequality happening, you know, you're never going to go hungry.
It's all I mean, I saw something quite interesting. Charlie Kirk was talking about DEI and reparations and all that stuff. And I think I saw a video on a couple other people talking about that topic as well. And an interesting fact is, dude, a lot of, and I'm sold on it. It really does have to do with a mental thing. I myself have had a wrong mindset and thought poorly. Meaning, I lived my life, made decisions, ran my life with a poor mindset. And guess what? I stayed poor. But as soon as I start thinking the next step, trying to get out of the poor stage of my life, it's magical. It's almost like things happened on their own. Opportunities presented themselves because I actually took advantage of certain opportunities. I made certain opportunities happen for myself because I didn't just expect it all to just happen by itself. Oh, eventually it'll solve itself. That's totally how it's going. No, you put the freaking work in and it happens.
Well, I think it's
put the work in.
I think it's Meyer Lansky who said it, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, why are you quoting Meyer Lansky?"
It has nothing to do with color. Put the fucking work in, and it'll. No matter what the skin color is, your integrity, your character will show. And you get results.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it is Meyer Lansky. I could be misquoting somebody, but I think it's Meyer Lansky who said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets." No, it's not Meyer Lansky, but somebody said that. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. I don't know why I thought it was Meyer Lansky. It's not Meyer
you
Lansky,
prepare for the opportunity when it presents itself. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You have to live that way.
Get a sandwich to the back door of the building. And his son is now a United States congressman in a white majority district in Texas as a Republican. That is America. That's America. So let's celebrate that.
And I'm not, again, I don't want to go out here and be like, oh, no, racial discrimination never happened or it doesn't happen, because I'm sure it still does. And actually, I think you can see that mostly with, white and Asian people trying to apply for universities where they have to meet such a higher criteria to even get in. Which obviously that's been abolished now, and now everyone's going back to the same standards. But
now we're going the other way with DEI. Now we go the other sense. If you're not a minority, you have to test higher because guess what? Most of the spots go to minorities.
Well, no, minorities still. I mean, Asians still do have to test higher. Asians have to test higher than whites, or they did have to test higher than whites. Whites have to test higher than Hispanics. Hispanics have to test higher than blacks. And it's just like, it's not helpful to anybody. It's really not, because then it's like, did I earn my spot?
Be judged on your performance.
Did I get it on merit, or did I get it for some factor that I can't control?
A perfect example of this is like, dude, would I want a doctor that got tested worst test grades but allowed to get his PhD because of the color of his skin? Fuck no.
Nobody
I don't
would.
want somebody operating on me. I don't want my pilot flying the plane that I'm on that got the position because of the color of his skin. Fuck no.
No. And then when
No,
I
not
don't
in a million years.
I don't think it would make anybody feel good to do that. But we're gonna get into this now. Sonny Hostin feels terrible about Kamala Harris fumbling her viral question about differences with Biden. And I'm going to replay this for you real quick. Megyn Kelly is the only person I could find with the clip. Let's see, how far am I through here? All right, yeah.
Election day, here it is. Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I'm sure.
Just like we just talked about, man. Who the hell would want to sign up for that bandwagon? Fuck no.
Well,
if I was anything of politics, a political mind, hell to the no.
Well,
I would not want to be attached to something like that.
I'm going to come out in a rare defense here for Sonny Hostin. I don't think I've ever done this before in my life, that I've defended Sonny Hostin. Because I think Sonny Hostin, she might be the most, I don't know, it's such a hard category. Who's the most insufferable woman on The View? It's like you got Sonny Hostin, you got Joy Behar, maybe this is Whoopi Goldberg in the back here. I don't know, maybe they couldn't fit her in one of the chairs. I don't know where she is. Maybe this is her. But
it's a prime example of her being oppressed. Like they wouldn't even let her on stage.
That is oppression, exactly. But they're gonna go, because this woman went super viral. Trump used it in all his campaign clips and whatnot, and everyone, like, now people are really being like, "Oh, Sonny, you kind of tanked it." And it's like, from what we just saw, it was a very softball question. But yeah, we're gonna let them react to it. I don't blame Sonny Hostin. I'm actually kind of thankful for Sonny Hostin. But if Kamala Harris was any type of candidate, you could answer, "What do you want? What would you do different?" Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a basic question. Like it's
basic.
Nobody's saying you have to condemn Biden on stage, but if there was a policy that you think didn't hit the note, you could have at least talked about. Like, there's so many options you could have had, and she's just like, "No, I would have done it exactly the same."
I would have been.
You would have train wrecked exactly the same way that he train wrecked. Like,
I would have been more. What? I would have been more forthcoming and more, I guess, proactive with international affairs. I would have
talking about immigration.
I would have done something.
So many other
I would have
things.
done something with the border, and it's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like, I think if there's one positive trait
It
that
could have been just a broad statement like that. Like,
if there's
I would have just been better with the border.
If there's one positive trait Kamala Harris really showed through that entire thing, her entire campaign was loyalty. But it was loyalty to such a degree, to such a stupid degree that it actually kneecapped her. I don't think she would have won anyway, but it definitely kneecapped her. All right, let's play this.
The last time we sat down for a live podcast, it was October 8th of last year. It feels like longer. Wow. But it happened to be, it was a month before the presidential election. And it happened to be the day that former Vice President Kamala Harris joined our table for an interview. Oh. It made quite a bit of news, created some viral moments. I guess I'll start with Sonny.
Sonny ruined it. It's Sonny's fault she didn't win.
Sonny, we can't ignore the fact that you may have single-handedly taken down the Democratic
Can you pause
Party.
it for a second? Can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
For some reason, it's comical to everyone there, except for the audience, clearly. But it's just, you understand the impact of what happened with that segment, and all you guys can do is just laugh about it. Like, you can't take any accountability for what truly was said by her comment.
I disagree with that. What else would they would have done? I mean, it was a softball question. It was such an easy question.
Yeah.
Anybody could.
They didn't ask a hard question.
No, it wasn't a hard question.
Why can't they be critical about Kamala for answering horribly to a softball question like that? And they're trying to put the blame on her. Like, they're jokingly trying to put the blame on her, but at the same time, it's like,
but that's because
Kamala fucked it up. Kamala fucked it up.
But that's what the Trump campaign did exactly, and that's the whole thing that went viral and all that stuff. But
why can't you guys say Kamala fucked it up? Because that's what
I think they're going to when they get into that. Because I don't believe that is like. I mean, you can criticize Sonny Hostin for a lot of stuff, but not this though.
Not that.
I don't believe this.
You just asked the basic question.
Some would say democracy itself. With one question that you asked Vice President Harris about what she would do differently than President Biden. How President
Y'all
Harris...
remember that?
Yes.
Hard to forget.
Take me back to that moment and
How hard did you think that question was going to be?
Well, did you know instantly that this was going to be meaningful the way she answered it?
I knew it instantly when she answered it, which is why I asked the follow-up question. Is there one thing? You know, because I knew, I could see the soundbite and I knew what was going to happen.
She went on The View, which is probably the most pro-Kamala place you could ever hope to be. And Kamala couldn't answer a simple question. Sonny's question was not a hard question. And I'm sure she wasn't expecting an answer, and I'm sure she does feel bad about it. But like I said, I've never done this before, but in this instance, I'll defend Sonny Hostin.
But I thought it was a really fair question, and I thought it was a question that she would expect.
It wasn't a gotcha question.
No.
It shouldn't have been a gotcha question.
But
it was.
I think we ask tough questions because I think our viewers want to hear
That's not a tough question.
those answers,
Yeah,
right?
nowhere near a
And
tough question.
Barbara Walters asked tough questions, and so I just felt that that's something that she needed to do, differentiate what a Harris administration would look like as opposed to a Biden.
No, that's where you're wrong. That is something she should have done. But that's something she could not have done.
That's just not something she was interested in doing, apparently.
Like I said, she was kneecapped by, having to agree with everything that Biden did. And it's like, yeah, that probably cost you. I don't know. I think he would have lost the election. But that's just me.
Administration, and she didn't have the answer that I expected. I expected her answer to be something like, we have won. We have this win, this win, this win, this win. We've been more successful than any other administration in decades. And so
In this way or that way or that, yeah, she could have done any of that. But she froze like a deer in the headlights. Like you asked her, it's like, hey, what about, why is there a body in your backyard? I mean, that's what it seemed like. She was like, like you would think she was under. You would think she's under police interrogation and not a politician who's used to going out and giving interviews and talking to the public. That's what you would think.
Her response was just like nothing. Yeah, it just really was nothing. Oh, I got nothing. Not, and like she said, like I even tried to give her like a follow-up to even try and save her. It's like not even one thing. Like, can you name one thing you do differently?
She couldn't do it because she. There.
You could have even, like she said, you could have even gone the other route and try to affirm what he's done. So, well, this was successful. This was successful. So I really appreciate what we did there. So I wouldn't have done that differently. But no, I would have done it exactly the same.
Yeah, you could have started spouting off Joe Biden's achievements, and you're in front of the audience of The View. No matter what you say, you could have been like,
they would have cheered you.
Listen, in the past 4 years, I've seen Joe Biden cure cancer, and they'd be like, wow, he did.
This is awesome.
And they would have clapped for it like seals.
So I intend to build on those wins, but of course I'm going to be different because I'm a woman of color. I'm a child of immigrants. I'm a lawyer. I'm going to do things differently through my life experience. But
listen, I'm just going to it's not enough to have a different skin color. It's not enough to have a vagina. This is not enough to win an election, and there never should be a criteria where it should be enough. Well, how am I different?
It shouldn't be about your color. It shouldn't be that you're a woman. Absolutely. You're not talking. They didn't mention a single political freaking aspect.
Yeah, but you know what?
Besides, well, she's a woman and she's a woman of color and comes from an immigrant family, so she would know what to do then.
But you know what? If Sonny Hostin asked her, what would you have done different than Joe Biden? And she said, well, I have a vagina. They would have clapped for that. They would have clapped for that. It wouldn't have been nearly
even as basic comment as that. Yeah, they probably would have.
Well, I'm a woman of color.
Yeah,
they would have
gonna be present.
Sonny Hostin knows her audience. She does. So it's like, if she said, well, I'm a woman of color. They would have clapped for that immediately. It's just like it would have been better than what you gave. I'm just saying.
But doesn't that sound like a good answer? Like I just assumed that was the answer, and then.
No, it's a bad answer, but in front of your audience, it probably would have been fine.
Better.
It would have been
better
fine.
than what was given, but yeah, no.
And now Jake Tapper wrote it in his book.
It's honestly in every 2024 recap book is kind of the moment, but it feels terrible. No, it speaks to how you are in the history books. Speaks to how important this show is. Though it is where presidential candidates come and make their way, or they fail and don't meet the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think you haven't had Trump on in 15 years, but okay.
I don't really.
Bring that up, Brian.
No problem. Here's another question. Do you guys believe that really did change the election? I don't think so.
I don't think it was I think it was.
No, right?
No.
I think it played a role.
Yeah.
They put so much.
It probably solidified. a lot of people's opinions.
It definitely was not it's one of the most viral moments of the election cycle of 2024, and there's no disputing that. And I don't blame Sonny Hostin for that. It was not a hard question.
I think it just solidified what a lot of people's opinions on Kamala was already.
Money behind that specific clip, and what they were trying to do is tie her to Biden's in favor.
I wouldn't have voted for her anyway, but that's because of racism and misogyny. So,
Yeah, totally.
abilities, but more than that, just simply the right track, wrong track of the election.
Yeah.
So even people who might be kind of neutral on Biden, it was something like 67% of the country felt like the country was going the wrong way. So they used it to say, well, she's not going to do anything different.
Yeah, you had to differentiate yourself. Simple.
It wasn't any one thing, but
that's an accurate stance. If 67% of the country said, no, things weren't done correctly, and then you have a candidate that you want the people to vote for, and she's saying that she wouldn't do anything differently, yeah, that's a horrible stance to have. Like, you don't need to have a PhD to figure that out.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a freaking rocket scientist. You don't need to be anything. Like, that's not a smart stance to have on a political stage.
Hey, it petered out, man. It died on the vine. Like,
but they really were able to use it.
It was not only separating her, didn't separate her from Biden, it also was fueling the narrative like she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, what does she stand for? She doesn't think it just like gave them the commercial.
Thanks, Sarah.
She gave no response. Her response was, nope, I do it the same.
Well,
she gave no response, no accurate political response, no policies, no nothing. Just, yep, no, I would do everything the same.
I think I want to say I've played this clip before. I'm not sure, but this is James Carville, how Sonny Hostin ended Kamala Harris's campaign. James Carville, I don't know how to feel about James Carville. He's a very TDS person too, but like, I think he might, he's been a good analyst for like 30 years or something like that. So.
I told Adam DeGurney, we didn't even get a chance to kick the tires. We just said, you're buying the car and you have no choice. And of course we bought the car. And I think if this campaign is reducible to one moment, we're in a 65% wrong track country. The country wants something different. And she's asked, is so often the case in a friendly audience on The View, how would you be different than Biden? That's the one question that you exist to answer. All right? That is it. That's the money question. That's the one you want. That's the one that everybody wants to know the answer to.
That's the throw up for you to hit a home run.
And you freeze. Yeah. You literally freeze and say, well, I can't think of anything.
Kamala Harris, she's not a good public speaker. She's not a good politician.
That was the softball pitch for you to slam a home run with, and
No, and the whole problem is she was unqualified for the position. I mean, Biden literally came out. He said, no, well, it was Biden's fault, and it's like Biden did the whole thing. I'm going to pick a woman of color to be my vice president. And Kamala Harris will be in the history book. She is obviously the first female vice president. But it's just like, I don't know if that's how you'd want your legacy to be remembered, because you didn't do anything. And then when you try to stand on your own two legs.
She was a DI pick.
You got kneecapped, exactly.
Yeah.
And once you get in it, so we said 65% want something different. We are just not going to give in to them, but maybe the odiousness of Trump combined with the Dobbs decision, we can overcome it. Well, we didn't overcome it.
Nope.
But when we go back and history unearths this, it's going to be right there on The View. And I think her name was Sonny Houston or whatever. Asked the question, and that's the most devastating answer you could imagine.
Yeah, but it wasn't Sonny Hostin's question. It was that Kamala Harris somehow could not answer that question.
The question itself, it doesn't matter who asked it first off, but the question itself was a softball question. It was a soft question.
Well,
it was an easy, again, hit it out of the park question, and she completely whiffed it.
So I guess to wrap up that segment, what do you think is really hurting the Democrats? Is it their corruption, or is it their incompetence, or is it both? Is it they have no strong leaders? Or maybe it's all of it. But yeah, please.
One way you look, there's always an issue.
Always an issue. And again, I say this as a registered Democrat who just happens to be voting Republican quite a lot. But you can't say I'm not a Democrat because I am registered like that.
I definitely wanted to believe in the Democratic Party when I was younger.
I think everybody does.
But little by little, it's just...
Yeah, well, we don't really have...
They are proving to me that I was wrong in wanting
Well, they're not even liberal anymore. Now they're just progressive. It's like it's gone so far left. And James Carville's a big proponent of this. He's like, we got to get the crazies out of our party. I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway, that's our segment on that. Let's leave all the politics alone for a second. We're going to go to a different story. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, yada, 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 yada. We have to go now to this story right now happening at a Wayne, Michigan church, and how there was one person injured after a shooting event that could have been a lot worse, but there was somebody practicing their 2A rights. So it turned out a lot better than expected. It could have been a whole lot worse. Thankfully, it was not. Let's see. Let me just
political topic, but thankfully a happy, not happy ending story. But
I would say it's happy.
Good,
I mean, there was
good results story.
There was a person who was injured. Seems like they'll be all right,
victims
but
in the
it's like,
case. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Some scary moments to tell you about at a church outside of Detroit, Michigan today. A gunman opening fire during Sunday services. Ike Ajachi joins me here at the desk now. Ike, I mean, terrifying, horrible that it happened there at a church at a service. What do we know?
Yeah, Phil, this was a frightening incident unfolding earlier this morning. According to police and local sources, an active shooter situation broke out shortly after the 10:45 Sunday service began, around 11.
And honestly, this is a frightening issue that's happening in America right now because we are so liberal with 2A. Obviously, we were founded on the fact that anyone has the right to bear arms and stuff like that. And I think it is more kind of attributed to a mental health crisis in our society where people want to go out and do this stuff. But luckily, there was a good guy with a gun to equal out a bad guy with a gun, and this result could have been a lot worse, but wasn't.
15 in the morning to be exact. Now, right now, police are investigating a Facebook live stream from the church. An event was being held when members heard gunshots and immediately evacuated. Authorities say the armed suspect was on his way to the church when a bystander attempted to stop him using a truck. Now, the suspect reportedly opened fire at the truck, and that's when a security guard at the church intervened. Investigators say the security guard shot and killed the suspect, ending the threat. Now, police confirm one person.
Hey, big shout out to that guy. That guy's a hero.
He saved lives.
Anybody somebody start that guy a GoFundMe. That guy deserves one.
Was injured in the incident, a shot to the leg, and no other injuries have been reported. The FBI, along with local police and support teams, are on the scene providing assistance and investigative support. Homeland Security is also monitoring the situation right now. Now, police, they're asking residents to avoid the area as they continue their investigation. Phil, this is still an active scene right now, and again, this another terrible incident.
Yeah, but thank goodness for the person in that truck and the security guard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for 2A.
The person in the truck, man. If we talk about preemptive, that's a wonderful preemptive action right there. Like you saw an issue and you tried to resolve it as best as you can with minimal casualties.
Yeah, those guys are heroes. They should get a GoFundMe. They should get money raised for them.
Yeah.
I mean, we should get some support for doing the right thing instead of this whole like Carmelo Anthony thing where you can kill somebody, you get $500,000. These guys should get all the money.
Or Shiloh or whatever.
These people should get all the money in the world. They really
Negative
should.
Story people.
Let's see. A man rammed his truck into a church in Wayne, Michigan, which is right near Dearborn. A security guard shot him. Good guys with guns save many lives. I would agree with that. America, and a lot of people are very critical of the 2A system, but it's like, people who aren't supposed to have guns are going to get guns anyway. That's what I think. So this is just stuff from inside the church, how it unfolded. I think the people in the congregation, in the church, they handled this all very well. So you can see now the incident is unfolding. People are going to the basement of the church or something to that effect. Yeah.
Everybody come to the back. Come to the back. John, they gotta come. They gotta come. Come on.
So, speed this up a little bit. But yeah, everybody's trying to get everybody out of there. And I think a few more stragglers are still going, but the situation, I mean, obviously could have been a lot worse. Luckily, it unfolded the way it did. Nope. There was one person who was injured, which we'll read up on in a little bit. We're going to read from the aftermath of this situation real fast.
I started hearing pop, 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 and I just booked it to the bathroom. and I hid with another parishioner.
I knew it was something bad. I've never heard her sound like that before.
Church security guard shot and killed a suspected shooter at Cross Point Church in Michigan.
It was the scariest thing I've ever been involved in. I was hiding in one of the bathrooms. I stood on the toilet and shut the door. Nobody else was in there but me and Tish. And we were just praying, and we didn't know what was going on, but we knew it was bad. And hearing all the gunshots and just praying that everybody was safe. We were just scared. We were very scared.
My son brought me the phone, and it was my mom in a very frantic voice telling me that there was an active shooter at her church behind us, and that she was hiding in the woods with my aunt. All I heard from my mom was that my aunt was there when bullets were flying, and that she had blood on her from the security guard. My aunt is about 80 years old, and she said that she was okay, but she was going to be there for a lot longer being questioned. So.
Yep. By the grace of God and a bunch of good Samaritans, this threat was neutralized. This apparently, allegedly, I don't know. I'm going to be careful with this, is Brian Browning. He was the person who went into the church, the shooting suspect, and he was neutralized by that security guard. So kudos to the security guard. Now we're going to hear from the police in Wayne, Michigan, say at least one person is injured and the suspect is dead after a shooting at a church Sunday morning. And this is, a terrible incident to occur. I'm sure it was very traumatic for those people, but, luckily, this guy didn't take anyone's life. And, the good guys with the guns, they won out.
Church and began to drive recklessly, drawing the attention of church staff members. The suspect exited his vehicle wearing a tactical vest, armed with a long gun and a handgun. He approached the church building and began firing his weapon. Several staff members from the church approached the gunman. A parishioner struck the gunman with his vehicle as the gunman shot the vehicle repeatedly. At least 2 staff members shot the gunman, causing fatal wounds. 1 staff member was shot once in the leg by the suspect. The church staff members do not wish to be identified at this point. The Wayne Police Department is still investigating this incident with the assistance of multiple local, state, and federal partners. We are grateful for the heroic actions of the church's staff members, who undoubtedly saved many lives and prevented a large-scale mass shooting.
Sure. Shout out to them.
I would add that church parishioners and staff members were trained in responding to emergency situations, which also saved lives. The gunman is a 31-year-old white male from Romulus. His motivations are unknown, but at this point it appears he was suffering from a mental health crisis.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's what I said. It's like mental health crisis is this whole thing here. So, gunman opens fire on Michigan church and is fatally shot by staff members. Police say 1 church employee was injured in the shooting on Sunday, and hopefully to that gentleman, lady, I don't think they've been identified yet, but they make a full recovery. On Sunday in Wayne, Michigan, the police said the church, which was hosting its vacation Bible school, was filled with children at the time. A man clad in a tactical vest and carrying a long gun and handgun opened fire on a Michigan church filled with children attending vacation Bible school on Sunday before being fatally shot by 2 members of the church's staff, officials said. The shooting, which was reported a little after 11 a.m. at Cross Point Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, which is about 25 miles west of Detroit, left 1 church staff member with a gunshot wound in the leg. The Wayne Police Chief Ryan Strong said at a news conference on Sunday night, which, we just went over, staff members who opened fire were not publicly identified. The chief said the staff member who was shot had injuries that were not life-threatening. The chief credited the emergency training of staff and parishioners for swiftly responding to the threat. We're grateful for the heroic actions of the church's staff members who undoubtedly saved many lives and prevented a large-scale mass shooting. And it's going to go over, a guy who was identified before he got out, pretty much went in there. There were all the people that we saw in the church and yada, yada, yada. But I think this is a good example of why 2A is so important. I think this is a good example of why good guys with guns will always triumph over bad guys with guns. And, it might be a thing, people say, oh, maybe more people should give up their guns. It's like, just the way 2A is in this country, maybe more people should be armed. It's like how the founding fathers intended it.
Those church members gave up their guns, that story would definitely have ended up a different way.
It would be a lot darker of a story, but thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. I know they did say the 1 employee was shot, but seems like it's non-life-threatening. So
victims, yep.
So I don't know. I felt like we should end on that. I mean, it's like a horrific event that could have turned into a catastrophic event, and it turns into a a pretty good story.
Definitely gives a better feeling. Yeah,
I think so.
As opposed to a potential.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, and that is all our topics for today.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment down below. And we are back to our normal schedule as well. We haven't since Wednesday, but we haven't done a Monday episode in, I don't know, in 3 weeks. So yeah, we're now back to our normal schedule for now. So,
good luck with the heat this week. Stay cool.
Yeah, I'm already sweating. It's just my house is miserable.
Get that AC in your
I gotta
window,
put in the AC. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will catch you on Wednesday.
Thank you.